You're listening to Good Morning Gwinnett, a division of Noise Media Network, hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney, sharing stories about people and places around beautiful Gwinnett County and beyond. Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Southern living at its best.
Good morning, all my Gwinnetians out there in Gwinnett land and all of you around the world listening to the sound of my voice. It's a beautiful day here in Gwinnett County, 76 degrees going up to a high of 90. So we're going to have a scorcher today, baby. No, not too much rain though, just a 20% chance of raining, which is a good thing. We like 20%. We don't like it when it's pouring down, so that's a good thing. Today is National, so you're going to like this one, y'all. This is one people like. Today is National Root Beer Float Day. If you like root beer, get you some ice cream. That sounds very old-fashioned, right? Root beer, float day. If you like root beer, get you some ice cream, put it on top of there, you got your float. That's what it's called. That's back in the day. That's back in my mother's day, like root beer float. But anyway, I care a lot about stuff today because I got a great guest coming on with me later, right after I do these horoscopes. So I'm going to go ahead and get to your horoscopes. Brought to you by noted astrologer Michael Thyssen for today, August the 6th. Time is just a-flying. We're going to kick it off like we always do, and that is with Aries. Aries, you are best to be discreet. Invest wisely. Your personal life could have you tied up in knots. You could pick up wonderful buys if you really look hard today. Listen, Aries, just take your time. Look hard. You're going to find some wonderful buys. Watch the coins so you don't overspend because we have a tendency to do that. You know that. Taurus, accomplishments is yours if you direct yourself accordingly. Chances to express your ideas and beliefs can bring popularity as long as you're not arrogant. Watch the ego today, Taurus. Watch the ego. Don't be arrogant. People don't like arrogance. It's ugly. Don't lament to a friend about any grievances regarding your mate, or it may be hard to rectify the relationship. I say this all the time. Don't tell people things you don't want to know. Here's the thing about telling folks stuff about your mate. They kind of hold it against your mate. So you go talking about your mate to somebody, and then when they see your mate, they be like, because they know what you done told them, like, So anything they do is like, So just be careful what you say today, Taurus. Don't talk about your mate, because whoever you talk about them, they won't forget what you said, and they're gonna look at them side-eyed. I'm just saying. Gemini, don't press your luck with loved ones. You will learn valuable information if you're ready to travel. Yes, you will attract potential lovers. Be sure that they are unattached. Here you go, Gemini. You're going to attract somebody today. They could be a potential, but just make sure that they are unattached. You don't want to be attaching yourself to somebody who's attached already. Not a good look. Not a good look at all. I'm just saying. Sometimes you meet people, they look good. It sounds good. It sounds great. Not today. Not today, Gemini. Cancers. Relationships will be erratic today. Use your quick wit to win points with friends. Put your time and energy into home improvements. I've been trying to do that since we've been on quarantine. I did paint, y'all. I painted my bathroom. It's like a purple looking color. It's pretty. I painted it. Me. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Yep. I did some labor. Leo, an intimate relationship with colleagues will lead to gossip that could easily affect your position. Partnerships could be tense. Don't push your luck. Be careful not to overexert yourself. Listen, Leo, take a minute for yourself. As a matter of fact, take two. I love that. That's a quote from a song. I can't remember what song it's from. But take 2 minutes for yourself today. You need that. You need that relaxation. I'm going to lunch after I do the show because I need to just get out the house for a second. All right. Virgo, new love connections can be made through group associations. Okay. You're best not to get involved in joint financial ventures. You could feel compelled to do some traveling. Do some traveling today, Virgo. But use safety cautions. Corona is still out there, and you might find a new love connection through some group associations. I don't know. Join one. It could be fun for you. All right, listen. I'm gonna go to my song, and I'm gonna come back and finish up the horoscopes because I got a great guest for you today, and you're gonna enjoy this interview. I always have good guests. Yeah. All right. Stay tuned. Welcome back. It's your girl, Audrey Bell Kearney, giving you the daily horoscopes brought to you by Nodal Astrologer Micah Thiason. We're going to pick it up with Libra. If you want to make your mark, try to get involved in projects that will bring you some glory. Female colleagues may be able to help you get the job done. You know what we do. We get the job done. Women do. We do. Your mind will be wandering to exotic destinations. Okay, this is a travel day for a lot of folks. I want to go somewhere exotic. I really do. Scorpio, romantic opportunities are evident if you get involved in large group organizations. Try to make amends by planning a nice dinner for two. Difficulties with your mate may lead to estrangement. Not if you make that nice dinner for two, Scorpio. Make the nice dinner for two so you don't be like all messed up in the relationship. So go ahead, make them some lobster, some crab, a little butter. Make it nice. Put some roses on the table, light some candles, do all of that. Whatever you got to do to make it right. All right? Sagittarius, go out shopping today. Opportunities to get together with friends will be enlightening and entertaining. New relationships could evolve through group activities. Listen, you don't have to tell me twice to go shopping, Sagittarius. I don't know about you. Now listen, I don't like grocery shopping. Y'all know I don't like grocery shopping, but you say clothes and shoes, I'm in there. So go out. I don't know what kind of shopping the stars is telling you to do today, Sag, but go shopping. And get together for some enlightenment and entertainment. That sounds nice too. Capricorn, close deals that have been up in the air and move to new ones that appear to be profitable. Lovers may not be truthful. You may have taken on a little too much, but you will enjoy every minute of it. Your lover is not being truthful with you today, Capricorn. I don't know what about, but check it out. Aquarius, you need to be inspired and have your spirits lifted. You should not get involved in joint ventures. Observations will be far more productive. Here's the thing, Aquarius. If you need to be lifted up, go watch something on YouTube. This is what I do. Whenever I'm in a funky mood, and yes, I get in funky moods just like everybody else, I will go on there and I will listen to Tom Bilyeu. He's one of my favorite YouTubers. Tom Bilyeu, The Impact Theory. I think I've told y'all this before because he always have like really inspiring guests. Once I watch one of his episodes, I feel great. I feel amazing. So check it out. And my fellow fish Pisces, try to stay calm and understand both sides of the situation. Stretch the truth and you may get blamed for something you didn't do. Be careful while traveling. All right, fish, listen, we ain't going to stretch the truth today. We don't want to get blamed for stuff we didn't do. I wanted to say the other word, but you know this is a family show. So you don't want to be blamed for stuff, then don't stretch the truth. That's all I got to say for you, fish. All right. So listen, that's all the horoscopes I got for today. I'll be back again on Monday, 10 o'clock, to bring you more of the horoscopes brought to you by Nodal Astrologer Micah Thiason. And now we're going to get on to my guest. So I got a great guest today, y'all. I met this gentleman last year, 2019. He probably thought I was almost like a little bit of a stalker. And I hate to say that because I hate when people stalk me. But I went to Podfest. So Podfest is one of the major events for podcasters, which is what I do and what I love. And Mr. Krimitsos is the founder of Podfest. When I went to Podfest in 2019, I was like, oh my God, I found my people. Because I realized there were so many of us who were doing something very similar, and we were so happy to sit down and talk and share with each other. I was actually fangirling out because I got to meet Pat Flynn, who's one of the people I love in this space, and John Lee Dumas and Roberto Blake. I was fangirling out. Like, I'm an old fangirl. But it was such a great event. And so from that event, I got the brilliant idea to write a book called Pod Chicks. And I went to Chris. Was that 2018? I think it was 2018. Anyway, I got this great idea to write this book because I was so inspired by Podfest. And then from there, I became a speaker at She Podcast last year in September. And then from there, I became a speaker this year at Podfest in March in Florida. So when I tell you, he has been an inspiration not only to me, but to a whole bunch of other people. And the event that he puts on every year, Podfest, is a wonderful event. I do Good Morning Gwinnett this way because when I went to Podfest, I heard so many podcasters say, do your show the way you want to do it. When I first started out doing Good Morning Gwinnett, it was just all interviews once a week. And I was like, you know what? I love music. I want music in my show. And I love to do this show. I want to do it 4 days a week. And people are like, are you crazy? And I was like, I love live because I hate editing. They said do the show your way. I do Good Morning Gwinnett this way is because I was inspired when I went to Podfest. Chris is not only the founder of Podfest, he is also the author of Start Ugly. So And he's going to talk about something he's doing right now. And he just, it was, I don't know how long this has been in the works, but I feel like it wasn't in the work very long. And it is big and it's growing. And I'm happy to be a part of that as well. People who know Chris says, he's an inspiration without the cheesy motivation stuff. And he really is an inspiration to a lot of us, y'all. He has launched this amazing community of podcasters, and I'm so happy to have him as my guest today. Y'all can hear me. I'm kind of fangirling out again, right? Welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Krimitsos.
Good morning, Gwinnett. Thank you, Audrey.
You're very welcome. So, Chris, a lot of the way I do things is because of being around you and all the podcasters and all of us who you brought together. And I have to thank you for that and for giving me so many great opportunities to be a part of this community and be able to contribute to this community. And so thank you for that. I know that you've done a lot of stuff. And so I want to get into where did you start out at? Because I know you are the founder of Podfest. You're an author. You started the Tampa Bay Business Owners Association. You did the movie, The Messenger, which I saw. You've done a lot of stuff, but where did it all start?
Honestly, I grew up in an immigrant household. My family's from Greece, and I just remember seeing my uncles my one uncle has no education. Like, he signs with an X, which I know a lot of people don't realize. There's people that he wasn't allowed to go to school. And I remember him literally working his butt off to buy a restaurant and then bringing the whole family up. And it was just an inspiration as a kid that I just love people and I loved entrepreneurship. So watching my uncles and kind of my family go through those struggles and then build it up entrepreneurially, I learned a lot. And because they were in the restaurant industry, I saw them cater to the community. So there's a backbone of hospitality. So then the story I always tell people is one day my dad brought me in to work with my Uncle Gus, and Uncle Gus is old school. Old school. And at the end of my shift, he told me never to come back as a dishwasher. I worked for him as a dishwasher, so I wasn't fast enough. And I was devastated. And he said, listen, he looked at me in the eyes. He goes, listen, I saw you talking to the customers during your break time. He goes, you have a gift with words and you have a gift with people. He goes, don't be like me. I don't want you stuck in the kitchen here where I work long hours. I barely get to see my family. He goes, go develop your gifts. If you decide you want to come work with me after you develop your gifts, I'll invite you with open arms. But until that time, I don't want to see you coming back here again. So that was a very pivotal moment for me at 13 years old.
Wow.
And I just found that I love community, I love people, and I love bringing them together. And these are some gifts that I have, and I've developed them. And I love podcasting because we deal with creatives like you. And you know this, every podcaster is different. Mm-hmm. So it's great to give them a platform, to not tell them, hey, you have to do it this. To tell them, follow your voice, but here's some fundamental things on monetization or audience building that we found. But you do you, but we'll give you the tools you need to be the best you can. So it just gives me a lot of pride to do what I do, to help empower people.
So Chris, at 13 years old, most people are trying to figure out, most boys are trying to figure out, how to play a game or basketball or a video game. What did you do after he gave you that go find your gift, go create your gift? What did you do? Like, did you say, okay, let me go sit down and think about this? What did you do? How did you do that at 13?
I would say that was like a foundational building block moment. I wouldn't say that. So then after that, I was an entrepreneur. So I would sell candy in school. I would get in trouble for doing business. So I learned about government regulation. So I learned all these little lessons, and I would have these entrepreneurial endeavors. Now the challenge for me is in those teenage years, I chased money. So I was always trying to make $1 million. I'd go in the stock market. I would lose everything. This was during the dot-com bubble. So somewhere in my late 20s, I was like, man, I'm not happy. I'm chasing money. What do I want to do? And I had a realization. I call that time of my life standing in the silence. I took 6 months to literally just ask my question, what do you want your life to be? What do you want to accomplish? And that's when I realized, like, okay, I love people. I love bringing them together. So that's when I created that Tampa Bay Business Owners community. Mm-hmm. And one of our first speakers back then was a guy that no one really knew, but I was following, kind of like you. I follow all these internet people because I kind of like what they're doing. And his name was Gary Vaynerchuk. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about wine on the internet. So believe it or not, I got him for no speaking fee because he wasn't famous yet. And it was like, I don't know, 400 books. I bought the books. And if you bought a ticket, I gave you a book. His first book was Crush It back then. He had a wine book before that, but Crush It was the first social media book. And that got me started on building my community. I said, the one thing I noticed was like, man, this guy was a lot smarter than me in a couple of ways. He understood, I was teaching social media in the early age, like when Twitter and Facebook came out, but I didn't realize that I could have had an international audience because people couldn't find that information in their hometown. I thought there was people like me in every town. I thought there was someone in Tampa, someone in Atlanta, teaching people. So we were doing meetups in '09. I remember we would have 50 people show up. I would do 5 meetups a week for 5 years.
Wow.
So, so like when people say, how'd you do 2,000 events? I literally would do, I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating. I'm pretty sure somewhere around 25 meetups a week.
Wow.
I'm sorry, not a week, a month. So then when you calculate that over 5 years, it's just on that alone, I did like 1,300 events. And it's cataloged in Meetup. So I said to myself, and you'll appreciate this, Audrey, I said to myself, okay, Chris, you weren't smart enough to realize that when you were teaching people Facebook ads, when Facebook ads first came out, no one was teaching that. There was very few people. So you obviously are always ahead of the curve. And so I learned that about myself. So I said, okay, next time I see something that I like that's going to be big, I'm going to make sure to write it for as big as I can write it to help people. And that's when podcasting, very similar to you, it was the Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas era. And it was, for people that don't know, those two people happened to be in the entrepreneur space very big early. And it was in I don't remember what year, but anyways, it was the year that we saw a huge hockey stick in growth numbers, and they started publicizing what they were making. So I saw that, and I loved audio. I always loved it. My background is very similar to you. I have a TV background. I used to do 2 local TV shows here locally. So I was watching for a media play. When I saw podcasting, I said, well, let's create a little workshop. We did 2 workshops. 75 people showed up. This was in 2014. 2013 was the first meetup for podcasting. 2014 was our workshops. And then I said, you know what? We helped. There were people like yourself. Most people were doing radio in the early years, right? And then people were, wait a minute, there's a difference between blog talk and podcasting. There's some nuances here. There's other ways to do it. And then what we did was we helped all those people with the new ways, and they needed support. So then I said, well, let's create Podfest and bring everybody together. We had 100 people in our first year, but I was still doing Tampa Bay Business Owners, so it was kind of something I was off to the side. Second year, we had 181 people. We knew we were onto something, and that's when we commissioned the movie, The Messenger, is a podcast documentary. And, now we just had 2,000 registered this past year, and we were the last event. One thing in business, anyone listening to this, life is about being prepared for luck, and there's bad luck and good luck. And trust me when I tell you, I've had a lot of bad luck occurrences, but you also get the good luck occurrences if you stay in the game long enough, if that makes sense. So my first 9 or 10 years, I wouldn't say I had bad luck, but I would say my timing was off, and I never did anything. I didn't time things right, even though I was there early. So with podcasting, I understood timing, and I understood the space. So I was able to grow as the space grew, and allowed to give it the TLC it needed to grow it right. And this year, I probably had one of the greatest occurrences of luck anyone could have ever asked for, because we were the last podcasting event of our size for the whole world to ever go on for this year in March. And then 2 days later, the country shut down from the coronavirus. So if you want to talk about, horseshoe, a moment, that was it.
Wow. It's so funny. You sound so much like me. You wouldn't happen to be a Pisces, would you?
No, I'm a Libra. I was listening to your thing. I'm September 23rd. I believe that's Libra.
That's
depends
Libra.
on what chart you look at.
That's Libra. My brother's a Libra. But you sound so much like me, because I talk about how I used to chase money. I even had a saying. I had to tell myself, stop chasing money and follow your dream, because I was chasing money up and down all kinds of avenues. And it's like you, always the first out the gate to do something. And then by the time they figure it out, I'm burned out already. I'm like, yeah, I can't do that no more. But like you, timing is everything. And it's funny, as you said.
Very similar.
Yeah,
very similar.
As you were saying that, I thought about Alexa, which is what I'm going to be talking about at Podfest Global Summit. But I love that whole space, and it was the weirdest thing, Chris, as I was preparing for my talk on Tuesday. Listen, guys, I'll be talking Tuesday, so if you have not registered for Podfest Global Summit, go to podfest.com and register. It's going to be an amazing event. If you didn't get to come down to Florida and march with us, you'll be able to do this virtually, so make sure to go check it out. But as I was preparing for my talk, there was some information that I came across, and the first artificial intelligence speaking thing was launched in 1950, I think it was 1952, by Bell Labs, right? So I was like, oh, interesting.
Wow.
Bell Labs, right? So Bell is my maiden name, Bell. My name is Audrey Bell. Yep. And guess what they called it, Chris?
What?
Audrey.
Ooh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I was freaking out. So I texted my husband, like, you got to read this. And so it was like for Bell Labs to name the first talking AI Audrey. I'm like, Audrey. So to me, that was confirmation that I was in the right space at the right time. So you're right, timing is everything. And the fact that, you have said to me, Audrey, you could break it down where people can understand. I'm excited about that. It gave me new life just to be able to present this. So I'm excited about that. So now you have done all of these events and you decided, you know what, I love this industry. I'm going to launch, Podfest. How has being a part of Podfest changed your life? Because I saw the messenger and I know for me it has changed my life tremendously in so many ways. How has that changed your life, meeting so many great people and talented and creative people?
So when we did the Tampa Bay Business Owners, that was a localized group. We had about 300 members. And it was like, a lot of people in that group would say, Chris, if what you do here, if you could do it bigger for like the world, we could change the world. And I know it's going to sound very idealistic, but Podfest is the manifestation of what we did locally, but now we're doing it internationally. And then we get people like yourself that come in. Now you're paying it forward and teaching Alexa. You're right. You and I are on the same page because I'm working with the partner, we're going to call it Pod Labs, about voice-activated skills and stuff, because that's where the future is, right? Mm-hmm. But you and I know we're like 3-4 years ahead. So you need to know that about yourself, because when you're ahead, that means you got to wait for everybody to catch up.
Right.
But watching all these people connect right now, if you go to podfestexpo.com, we have free tickets for people to be part of our global summit, which starts August 10th to the 15th, and we're attempting to set a Guinness World Record. But the cool thing about it, when you go into our app, we have this app called Huva. Right now, Audrey, people are doing meetups, because you could set up your own meetup and helping other people in the app as we speak without you or I doing anything. Like other people are helping people. So it's like we've created what I was able to create in a little local area, we're able to create in Podfest. And now I have to always pinch myself, because one thing I had to learn, when you get internationalized, like everybody around the world comes, I have to learn how to write visa letters, which I didn't. The first time someone asked me that, I'm like, what's a visa? I don't even know what a visa letter is. Well, they're like, in our country, if we come for education, we need a letter from your embassy to our embassy for us to come travel in. Wow. And like, it's like, oh my God. And it's like, oh, okay, well, why are you coming in? And like at first, because we're Americans, we think it's some kind of scam, because you never know what's going on. And then you look at it, you're like, oh no, this is a real person. We had someone that was advising the president of Ghana, and they were coming in to learn how to do podcasting. This was a couple years ago, and unfortunately for us, the spam filters kept getting their messages in spam filters. Wow. We weren't able to get them the letter in time. So that next year, we had a template created. We were ready. So anytime someone asked us, we could send it immediately. Sometimes we have to overnight these, depending on the country. You have to overnight the letters. And last year I had to send one to some guy in Saudi Arabia, and he's like, hey, can you send it FedEx overnighted like this? It cost me like $80, like the way he wanted it, And he said to me, okay, send me the invoice for the bill. I said to him, no, you already bought a ticket. This is on us. Our community wants you to be here. Well, then he brought 3 more people.
Wow.
So it's kind of it's the hospitality vibe. You know that. I mean, people in certain areas, if you live in a city that's hospitable. I grew up in a Greek environment where my uncle's diner was opened up to the whole community. And if you were eating in their diner, you were their guest. And they made sure that everything was clean, that the food was, hot and fresh. And I watched them really labor over the details. And there's one, Audrey, can I share a story about that?
Please do.
So this is a diner story. My best friend, his dad still has this diner. It's been in their family for like a long time. And he told me the story as a kid, and I never forgot it. And I apply it to Podfest every day. And I try never to forget this story, because ego is the enemy. When you think you're more important than other people, that's really a bad thing. So he had a butcher that he did business with for 20 years. And he would leave his diner in the Bronx, and he would drive, I don't know, like an hour away to get to the butcher on Friday, and the guy would close at, let's say, 3 p.m. And because of traffic, sometimes he was 10 minutes late. Well, the butcher would say, "Hey, Pete, welcome. Come on in. Let me open up my gate." He'd open up the gate, let Pete look at the meat, and then he'd have the meat delivered for that, month or whatever. And every now and then Pete would come in to see that. Well, unfortunately, the butcher passed away, and his son took over. So Pete went, and this is a real story. Pete went to go look at the meats again, and the son said, "Hey, sorry, we just closed. It's 3 p.m. And Pete was like, "Oh, I've been doing business with your father for 20 years. He always opens up for me." He goes, "I appreciate that, but we close at 3 o'clock. And these are wholesale accounts. We're not talking about like a small account. We're talking about like a lot of money. Well, that 20-year customer left. Wow. And Pete would always tell us that story. He goes, "I did business with his father for 20 years. It took the son 6 months to close down a multi-million-dollar wholesale operation that literally catered to hundreds of restaurants in the New York tri-state area." So when Pete would always tell us that story, I never forgot that. Like, you got to always be good to your customers. For us, to our podcasters, they are our community. And sometimes, there's times that they're late or whatever. Like, fine, you don't want to necessarily punish them. There's some rules, but you want to also, if it's someone that's been taking care of you all these years and spreading the word, you want to make sure that you kind of help them along the way so then they could help others. So it's really important to me. I never forgot that story, and it always stays with me that a 20-year customer left because when the son took over, he didn't understand the TLC that the father built the company with.
It's so funny, Chris. When I spoke at Podfest this year, I had to speak to podcast editors, right? And so when Mark Dill invited me to be a speaker at what was it called? EditorCon?
Podcast EditorCon, yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't even edit, so why am I going to talk to the editors, right? Well, he said, well, Audrey, because somebody has paid you to go on a cruise and talk about podcasts, and we need you to tell the editors what you did. And so when I get to the room,
there you go.
I was like, well, what I did was I showed a lot of empathy to people. That's how I run my business. And it was so funny because the room was predominantly men, Chris. They were not like you. Yeah. And so one guy came up to me afterwards, and I was like, I hold hands, I rub shoulders, I do all that stuff because I realized that my audience are older women who don't understand technology, and I have to walk them through literally, step by step. This is what you got to do. And so the guy came to me after, I forgot his name, but he's in Georgia actually. He's like, "I love what you had to say." He said, "But you're right. I just do not have time to have empathy."
That's some people don't get it. But listen, it's when I speak to different crowds, you have to realize the different levels that you're talking to, and people that have empathy or they know you have empathy for them, it just goes a long way. And you got to realize, like, right now with this Podfest Global Summit, we're dealing with thousands of requests, and I'm getting like the same question asked to me and my team like 100 times over. So we have to find empathy each time, but it's a practice, if that makes sense, to recenter and reset and be like, okay, for this person, it's the first time they're asking the question. For me, it's the 100th time I'm answering it, but I'm still going to answer it with empathy because it's a real question for that person.
It really is. So now, when I talk to a lot of business owners about podcasts, and I talk about it, I'm so passionate about it. But I think for a lot of them, they still don't understand like the power that a podcast has in the industry and where it's going. Can you speak a little bit about our industry and where it's going? Like, well, you've seen it come from where it is. Where is it going? What do you think is going right now? And how can business owners benefit from it?
Yeah, so let me define what I consider podcasting to be. It's a little different for a lot of people. But to me, podcasting is on-demand, searchable, episodic audio through the internet. And the reason why that's really important for anyone's listening, it's on-demand, searchable, episodic audio. So what does that mean? All right, we have what you're doing, which is a personality show that is unique to you and you have an audience. But for business owners, what they don't realize is you could literally do a Q&A show for that business where they answer questions that they get asked all the time. And the example I use is, imagine if you're like a local jeweler and someone's shopping for a ring and you meet them at a networking event and they're like, well, what's the difference between a chocolate diamond and, a blue diamond or whatever, a yellow diamond? And the jeweler kind of explains the VS quality and all the stuff that jewelers do. But the jeweler says, hey, at a networking event, you're only going to get 5 or 10 minutes to talk. He says, hey, give me your email. I'm going to email you some podcast episodes where I answer a lot of different questions around this to help you shopping for your engagement ring. And that person now goes in their car and they're listening to questions that are already pre-answered in their car that person's going to buy from that jeweler. For whatever, and you can replace the jeweler for any other business owner. And I always love when people are like, I'm in B2B, it doesn't work. Actually, podcasting works even better in B2B because people are searching for certain things in the audio library, and they're finding only one B2B podcast episode, and those people are cleaning house. So there's just so many different ways besides having a show. You could do a solo show. It's endless, the opportunities. We know people that literally do a podcast, and they don't care about the audience. They just want to interview all the subject matters in their industry, and they become one of the top experts in their industry by getting access to interview some of the gatekeepers that they could never get access any other way, and they build their own brand. So it's an amazing platform, and it's easy. Microphones are cheap. The only thing I would invest in, and I would invest in a decent microphone, $100, but I would just invest in the education of how to grow an audience. That's what you've invested in. Like, that's the smart play. As far as the future, I think you're on it. I think your presentation next week, and I'm not saying this because I'm on your show, but the future of Alexa and voice activated, I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do know we need to be on it because I tell people all the time. So business owners are telling me like, oh, well, I do my search ads, and I always tell them, how are you going to put ads on voice-activated audio? And they usually look at me confused. Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah, if I'm searching via Alexa and I'm talking to my smart devices, you can't put a pay-per-click ad in front of that. Mm-hmm. The only way I'm going to find it is either I sponsor an influencer like you, Audrey, who has the community's ear, right? And you'll mm-hmm. mention me within your app or whatever, right. Your skill, flash briefing, whatever you want to call it. Or I'm already on there creating my own audio, podcast episodes, so people find that information and they find me. So we're about to go into hyperdrive in this future. I think you and I are way ahead of the curve on this stuff, but I do think, 3-5 years, we're going to have like hundreds of people talking about this stuff the way we are now, because everybody will be using their. A lot of people have used smart devices already, but they think they're stupid, which technically, in the learning curve we're at now, they're not as smart as they're going to be. But what people have to realize is these smart devices are getting smarter every day exponentially. So eventually they're going to be smarter than all of us collectively. Like, it's only a matter of time at this point. When that tipping point happens, everybody's going to be talking to them. I know it's scary for some people to think, but that's the reality of the thing. I play quiz shows against my smart device, and it teaches me stuff. And me and the girls play stuff against our Google Mini. It's really clunky right now, but it's not going to be clunky for too much longer, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. It's so funny, Chris, because I rebranded my company last year to focus just on this. And so for busy entrepreneurs who just don't have the time, because that's one of the other myths. I don't have time to do a podcast. And you really do. You really do have the time. You just have to make the time for it. But for those people who feel like, I don't have the time, what we decided to do was take my company, Noise Media, what we decided to do was take AI just a little bit further. So we would go there, we get your top 10 questions, right? You don't have to say a word. We're not going to say a word. We're going to put it into a voice activated software that's going to read the questions, give the answers, and then we're going to take that and upload it to a podcast, right? So people can go to my website and buy that service, because now, I don't have the time. We took that excuse off the table. I don't know how to do it. We took that excuse off the table. I've never heard of. We took all the excuses off the table. So if you want a podcast, you don't have the time. You don't have the passion for it. We took it all off the table because we understand that artificial intelligence is changing the way we do everything. Whether you want to accept it or not, it's happening. We got down here in Georgia, we have the autonomous cars, right? And I was like, oh my God, like they're going to put them on the road. Like, so we have a whole center over in Norcross, which is about 20 minutes away from me, where they have autonomous cars. Like, you just go and you can sit in the car and it's going to drive you around. Now, some people are afraid of that. My mom said she would never get in one because she feels like it's going to drive in the river, but a lot of people aren't. So it's not going anywhere. It's going to stay. And so we need to get on board. Like, just like podcasting is still, even though it's been around for a long time, it's just now starting to like really pick up, because we see the numbers. When we did Podfest last year, I think it was last year, it was 775,000 podcasts. And the reason I know that is because I had to speak last year on the news. This year when we came back to Podfest, it was 950,000. I was like, oh my God.
And then after that we hit 1 million shortly after that.
Yeah, so the industry is growing. But even though it's growing, there's still a lot of space for us to do things in that space. I want to move on a little bit. Last year when I was at Podfest, you had a speaker there. His name was June, and he was talking about podcast networks. And I've heard a lot of people talk about podcast network, and I know you had a children's podcast network. Can you explain to my listeners what a podcast network is, and what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of trying to launch one of those?
So there's different ways to set up a network. So a network, just the meaning of a network means it's a group of people or things, right, worked together, networked, just like computers are networked, and that creates the internet. So a group of shows, you could have a couple of networks. So I'll give you an example. Kid-friendly network is something I own 100%, and I hire voice actors to do the show. So we have kid-friendly joke of the day, kid-friendly dinosaur fun facts. So these are short 2 or 3 minute sound bites across a spectrum of like 5 different shows. It's called the Kid-Friendly Network. And I put my initials, CKP, Chris Krimitsos Productions, on all of the call signs, just like NPR does. And what I can do now is I sell advertising across the entire network, and I get paid for that advertising across my network. So that's a network that I wholly 100% own and control. So I could sell that down the road. You also have networks where, let's say there's 5 or 10 podcasters that talk about Atlanta, for instance, in different parts of Atlanta. Those individuals could come together and say, hey, let's create a network where we all promote our shows, and we'll sell advertisement as a block. And the reason why we would do that is now we could charge more money, because these are the shows that basically everybody in our geo area listen to, and we're all split based on download numbers, and that's how the percentages get split. So that's more of a getting a group of individuals together, networked. So there's different ways you could do it. And honestly, I've even seen one guy that, I don't know if he had a podcast, but he took 40 Star Trek podcasts, he made them into a network, and he said to all of them, said, hey guys, I'm going to sell advertisement across all of your downloads, and then we'll just create, if you only have 10 downloads, it goes into the equation. That's what you get. If you have 100,000, you get more. And then he said, I'm just going to take 20% off the top. So he became almost like imagine him as like the guy that controls the network, and he was making money as a sales agent. So there's different ways to do it. Mm-hmm. The most popular way is you own the shows, and then you bring other co-hosts on your network, and you either pay them a fee, or believe it or not, a lot of people do it for free, because they're not doing it for free necessarily, but they're getting a lot out of it because their brand grows as well. Mm-hmm. So now they're able to grow their brand under a network that already has downloads. So there's a lot of value depending on what the person wants.
Yeah, I love it. When I talked to June last year, he inspired me. Let me tell you something, guys. If you have not attended a Podfest event, you have to. Here's why. Because most of the people who you're going to run across, they're very giving and caring, and they don't mind sharing information. Now, I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years, and I could tell you, I've been in organizations where nobody won't share. They won't share anything. It's like a secret club inside of a club. So with this industry, it's not like that. And so when I talked to June last year, I was super duper excited about the whole podcast network. So that's what I did. I was like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to start a network and invite other podcasters on. So right now, my podcast has it has my 2 shows, and I'm launching a 3rd show. And it has a show called In the Doll World, and it has a show called Dynamic Life on there. And so I'm a geek, Chris. So I went a step further. So now, not only is it on all of these other platforms, I have it on streaming TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, and Android TV. And people don't even know Android make TVs. I was like, Android make TVs? Like, yep, Android makes TVs, and we'll soon be on Apple TV. So I took it a step further with my network, but I love what he said so much. So I said, you know what? I know people. Let me bring them on the network, and let's figure out how to monetize this thing. So thank you for sharing that with us as well. Now, let's talk about Start Ugly, because I know you mentioned it when you talked about starting Podfest Global Summit, which is coming up next week. What inspired you to write the book?
I wanted to write a book that would change people's minds on why they should get started on whatever it was that they were thinking about. Because remember, I deal with tons of people, so I hear people all the time saying, oh, Audrey's so smart, I can't do what she does. She's like the voice of Gwinnett, and you don't know how big that is. And I'll say, well, Audrey started somewhere. Why don't you get started? And I hear people always comparing themselves to other people. So this was a long time ago, by the way. I was in front of a business group, kind of like you were doing your cruise thing. I was in front of one of my local business groups, and they were really upsetting me with like limiting beliefs, and we all have them. I don't care how successful we are. There's some kind of limiting belief we all have. And I said to them, just start ugly. And I felt bad because I felt like I cursed at them because I said it in anger. I didn't say it in like, moment of clarity or whatever. And someone raised their hand and they go, can you tell me more about that start ugly thing? And I laughed to myself because I was like, this is just me exasperated saying, just start ugly. And I realized it resonated with people because it took the fear of starting off of the table, because it embraces that no matter how we all start, don't get me wrong, some people have more talent than others. Who really cares? But if you start, when you look back at your first episode, you always get better. No matter what it is, even if it's not a podcast, you always got better if you really love what you were doing and you applied yourself. So I always tell people, it's not start ugly, stay ugly. It's start ugly and perfectly execute from that point forward. And doing the podcasting thing for as long as I've done now, I think we've been doing it for about 8 years, seven going on 8 years. I've seen people literally start ugly. Their shows were terrible. They didn't like their topic, and then they stopped and they pivoted, and then they hit it out of the gates because they knew how to produce a show. They understood that what they didn't want, and then I've seen people in that same time frame still thinking about starting something and not doing anything over the same 3 years. So I've seen like people literally create terrible shows, crash and burn, and then pivot and create the greatest shows. Like I'm talking about, they're like world leaders. Like I've seen in front of my eyes, and then I've seen the same person that sits next to this person, because we do monthly meetings here in Florida, so we get to help each other like actively. And I've seen another person that's literally still thinking about starting 3 years later, and they're talented. That's the funny thing. They might even have more natural talent in some ways, but the thinking part screws them up. And I think in life we have to embrace starting ugly, because we don't have time to think too much. Like before you know it, the game is done. Then it resets to somewhere else. So start ugly. I don't like preaching to people what to do. So it's a story. It's written in parable format about a main character who loses their way, forgets what once made him successful, needed to literally be implemented, and that was starting ugly again. And we've had thousands of people read the book. They share it. We made the physical book almost like a collectible, so it sits on your bookshelf, and it has like a Post-it note to start and ugly on the Post-it note. So it reminds people to start ugly. This Guinness World Record attempt that we're doing next week is a start ugly for me, because if I had to think about it, it would take me a year to plan it out. We've done this in 5 weeks. And I will tell you, there's a lot of start ugly, but we fix it when it comes up, and we just keep doing it.
Wow. And see, I knew when I saw it come out, I was like, were they planning this all along? Or 5 weeks, Chris? And this is big. So what made you decide to make it a Guinness Book World Record kind of event? What made you decide to do that? Because I'm like, that's pretty cool.
So I did a little tester event, like a one-day event, virtual, and we had 874 people. And I called up my buddy Gabe, one of my best buddies, and I said, Gabe, I can't believe we had 874 people show up, and it was 1 week of promotion. Like, we didn't do more than that. It took us a couple weeks to put everything together, but it was a one day. It was very easy to produce. And he said, well, why don't you go for the world record? And I go, like, what world record? He goes, yeah, Guinness Book, Guinness, go after that. And I go, oh, that sounds pretty big. He goes, well, you've said in the past. And, during the quarantine, all of us aren't thinking clearly like I did. And he goes, yeah, you always talk about it. He goes, so it's good to have friends that believe in you and remind you what you've said in the past. So in that moment, I said, what do I do? He goes, what are you talking? He goes, you're the Start Ugly guy. You know what to do. Reach out to them. So that's what I did. I reached out to the Guinness World Record. And guess what? They got back to me.
Wow.
And they said, yeah, we're definitely interested in virtual events. Everything's virtual now. What do you represent? I said, I represent a bunch of podcasters. They go, oh, yeah, let's figure out a category. They made one for us. I said, what happens if we win it? He goes, all of your people could order certificates that they're part of Guinness World Record.
That's
so anyone
cool.
part of it gets to get the certificate. It's like $20. They send it to you, in the mail and all that stuff. So I said, oh, my God, that's amazing. And then I said to them, what do I need to do? They told me. Now, quite honestly, I will tell you, Audrey, I did sit on it for a month because I was scared for a couple of reasons. What if I don't hit the record? Do I have enough money to pull this off? Because as you know, when we're this virtual event, there's like a lot of we're using a lot of stuff, so it costs money. Like it's not, I know a lot of people don't understand tech. They just think like you show up and it's all free. It's like, no, people got to get paid behind the scenes. You just don't see them. So, and we've invested $10,000 in Facebook ads. Like we're investing heavily in the success of this event for our speakers and our audience. So it's not a small investment. Luckily for us, we crowdfunded it. Our community said we're behind it. People like yourself said, let's do it. that took a lot of the sting off, and then Lipson, our sponsor, came through. Between those two things, they were able for me to think clearly and just promote the snot out of it. Right now we're going close to 3,000 registered attendees. We need 5,000. So we're on our way, but we need to overshoot the number so people get on the app, because some people will register and not get on our app for whatever reason.
Wow. Ooh, that's nice. I'm so excited to be a part of it. I'm so, I can't wait to get my certificate, because we're going to hit the number. Like, I'm going to do my part. We're going to get the number, and I'm going to have my certificate and put it right in my office.
I got to get all the other speakers to do what you're doing. We'll hit it. We need to overshoot. I'd like to be at 7,000 or 8,000 to feel confident that we have 5,000 that comes through the app Monday through Saturday of next week. And we're excited. And for me, it gives my life meaning, because now, like Audrey, what we do physically, we're helping, we have people in Amsterdam, Brazil, all of South America. We have a section that's in Mandarin. You can't even read the description. It's in Mandarin. We copied and pasted from a speaker that gave it to us. We have sections in Spanish. Most of it's in English, of course, but like what you're talking about with Alexa, I think any business owner should listen to that. Forget about podcasting. Like, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You should be on the what's going on with voice activated. That's the future, and it's free.
Yeah.
Like all you have to do is get your free pass, and it's part of our free promotions for this event.
All right. So listen, Chris, I know you got to go. I don't want to keep you, because I got a million questions, but I won't keep you that long. How can people become a part of this? How can they attend? How can they reach out to you if they got questions? I'm going to be there Tuesday, 11:30, guys, talking about this, about Alexa and how to leverage it for your business and your podcast. But how can they reach out to you, Chris, and how can they become a part of Podfest?
So go to podfestexpo.com or .online. We're using a new domain soon for all our online learning. The .online extension, I think, is very important. And then if they want to reach out to me, it's Chris, CHRIS, at podfestexpo.com. But honestly, Audrey, if you register for our event, okay, it's free. Literally, I just want to make sure you know the tickets are complimentary. 99% of it's free. Then we have a little part that's premium. But if you register for the free event and you're a casual observer, get in our app, and in the app there's a community section. Literally all around the clock, we have people setting up meetups to help each other as we speak. And it's been amazing to watch what you're part of physically happen virtually. And I would tell people, you have to be willing to fail. I was turned down by at least 20 or 30 sponsors telling me they don't want to give me money. So, I deal with rejection all day long. All I needed was 4 or 5 of them to say yes, and that's what happened. So it's like, start ugly and get it going. Don't worry about other people's opinions. I had some guy berate me yesterday on Facebook, telling me, how dare you put on this event? And you're like, you're not going to make everybody happy. And I know it sounds weird, but that's a good thing. If you have people criticizing you, you're doing something right. It means you're making a ripple in the universe. So there's someone out there that has a voice, and they've been waiting. Know that we will support you. We will promote you. Anyone that starts a podcast during this launch, we will promote them to the entire database as a collective. So if we get 5 or 10 new podcasters, we'll send an email out promoting their podcast at the end of this promotion.
Wow, that's so cool. As you were talking, I feel like Star Ugly should be a film. There's a new film that came out yesterday called The Secret, Dare to Dream. With
oh, you know what? That's a good point. I never thought of that.
I feel like that should be a film, because I feel like it's going to be so inspiring. The other thing I thought about, too, was part 2 to The Messenger, and I think you should call it Beyond the Message.
You know what? There might be a hybrid between those two, like where we could navigate the Start Ugly and Beyond the Message. I love that. Mm-hmm. The only challenge with that is I just got to, with The Messengers, I invested quite a lot of money, even though we got it crowdfunded. Movies, you learn something really quick.
Oh, yeah.
It's very difficult to make money because Hollywood controls most of it.
Yes, I know. I did a 6-part series called College Campus Crimes, because I got this TV network too, and I did a 6-part series called Campus Crimes, and oh my God, that killed me, Chris. And people loved it. They was like, "Oh, it's great," but I'm like, "Oh my!" So we did 6 episodes in 6 days. It was grueling. I have no idea how I did it, but I did it, and I was like, I never want to do it again. But I'll be happy to tell other folks, like, hey, I think you should do that.
No, I'm a glutton for punishment. I might do it. We'll see. Like for me right now, you know where we're at. Podfest is going to grow into something big. Like we all know this. Like we have something special within our community. So once it gets to a size where I could have a team that takes care of a lot of the details, I love making a movie, just meeting people and talking to them. It was a joy and a pleasure. So I would love to do that.
So with the coronavirus, and then we're going to wrap it here, with the coronavirus that it's kind of shook everything, do you think we'll be meeting in person next March?
Well, we're shifting our dates. I think it's going to be more like June, I'm hoping.
Okay.
So we're looking at it right now. Honestly, most of corporate events that we know of have shifted already to July and August of next year. Mm-hmm. So between you and I hope for all our sake we get to see each other sooner than later. But we'll have to wait for those vaccines to be tested and come out. But I would say get on our email. We'll let everybody know once Podfest is. We always happen in Orlando. There's a lot going on down in Orlando. A lot of fun stuff. And it's a great place for us because a lot of people from South America, Europe, all over the world, Africa, come in and fly into Orlando. And it's just a great city to be the host.
All right. So listen, guys, make sure I'm going to put this out today. Make sure that you go and register Podfest Expo because it's going to be an amazing event. I'm going to be speaking Tuesday about tech, so how you can leverage Alexa for your business and your podcast. So make sure to join us. Thank you, Chris, so much for the opportunity to share with my listeners. And I look forward to always being a part of what you got going on here with our community. And I'm excited. So thank you. And, have a wonderful day. And tell Katie and the kids I said hi.
I will. You guys will be good. All right. Bye now.
All right, thanks. So listen, guys, you heard it right here. Mr. Chris Krimitsos, he was my guest today. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I enjoyed doing it. I will be back after this to close it out for today because, today is my Friday. So stay tuned.
If I lasted by
Welcome back. So listen, guys, that's all I got for today. You know, today is my Friday, so I end it right here. But before I go, I want to give you my inspiration up for the day. So here goes. Don't live down to expectations. Go out there and do something remarkable. I like that. Don't live down to expectations. Go out there and do something remarkable. Wendy Wasserstein said that, and she was right. Listen, you can be remarkable. You just heard Chris said, just start ugly. Start where you are. The thing you have to do is start. I start so many things, y'all. I don't sleep at night. I probably have aged because I am so excited about being an entrepreneur. I'm so excited about being a podcast. I'm so excited about all the opportunities. And yes, we're going through a tough time right now, but here's the thing. There are so many opportunities out there. You just have to open up yourself to these opportunities. A lot of times people walk around with closed mind, closed eyes, closed everything. Open yourself up to what is possible. That's what you have to do. And once you do that, just start. Start ugly. Start right where you are and perfect it along the way. You know, the one person that could probably tell you I do this most often is Georgette. Georgette know I will start some ugly in a second. Like, I'd be like, hey, G, let's do this thing. I'll start it. And she kind of, you know, she's a little bit more of a perfectionist than me. So I'll start very ugly. It'll be raggedy. And if somewhere down the line I say, you know what, I don't think I like this, I'll either keep going or I'll stop. And that's okay. I think a lot of times we get caught up in what people are going to say about us, what they're going to think about us. You heard Chris just said somebody was trying to rag him out on Facebook about doing something amazing. Like, who does that? That's a person with no vision, who's not open to anything, who don't understand the possibilities, who don't understand the opportunities. Why would you get on there and rag somebody about helping the community, people share messages and stories around the world that's going to empower and inspire people? Why? Because you don't have that mindset, right? Here's the thing. Do your thing. Start ugly. Start where you are. Start today. Don't wait another minute, because we may not have another minute. I hate the sound doom and gloom, but you never know. You may not have another minute, and that's important to understand. Don't leave here with regrets. They say the best ideas are in the graveyard, and that's the truth, because people did not start. They had all this fear around starting. What are people going to think about me? Am I going to have the time? What if I fail? What if I succeed? You'd be surprised at how many people are afraid to succeed. I used to be afraid to succeed because I felt like if I hit this huge number of success, people were going to look at me differently. I know I wasn't going to change, but I've been around people who have changed because I had money, right? They changed. I didn't change. And so for me, that was a fear of having money. And I had to realize that was a huge fear for me. And then I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm never going to have what I want to have if I have this fear of succeeding. And if you had asked me that when I was going through it, I was like, nah, I don't have a fear of succeeding. And when I started doing a whole lot of work on myself, and y'all know I talk about working on myself all the time, I had a huge fear of succeeding, right? But it didn't show up like that. It showed up, if I get all this money, people are going to treat me differently. That's how it showed up. Now, I don't care, because here's why. My why is a little bit different. I have a granddaughter, I have a daughter, and I want to be able to leave a legacy for them. So I don't care what people think, and if they change because I have money, then let them change. That's them. I don't have to deal with them, and that's what I had to come to understand. If you change because I have money, then you don't need to be in my life. All right. So listen, that's all I got for you today. If you found this interview with Chris inspiring, join our community. I am hosting the Pod Chicks Incubator. This is an incubator for women who are interested in learning how to podcast and grow it into a business. And also you can be a part of the network that I'm building here. So go to podchicks.com. That's podchix.com for more information. The incubator starts in September. I'm only letting in 50 people because I need to be able to talk to everybody. I can't let in 500 people and talk to people. If you don't get in the first cohort, it's going to be another cohort in March. It's all virtual, so you don't have to worry about being exposed to COVID because it's going to be on the computer unless it's in your house. All right. Thank you again for listening. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you spent the last hour with me, and I really do appreciate you. And I want to, again, thank my guest this morning, Mr. Chris Krimitsos from Podfest, y'all. Make sure to check us out. I'm going to be posting this all over the place because I think once you realize how powerful this industry is, you want to be a part of it. You got a message, you got a story, you got an expertise you want to share with the world. This is your opportunity. And here's the thing. You could almost do it for free. And you probably can do it for free outside of investing some time. All right. So listen, If you missed any episode of the show, be sure to go to goodmorninggwinnett.com to listen to past episodes there. Share the show with your friends. Follow me on Instagram at Good Morning Gwinnett. Follow me on Facebook at Good Morning Gwinnett. Follow me on Twitter at GM Gwinnett. And also be sure to go over to Apple Podcasts and pick your favorite episode and like it. Give it 5 stars there, because I need to move up in the ranking. And the only way for me to do that is for you to go over there and give your favorite episode 5 stars. And that's going to help me move up in the ranking. I'll be back again Monday at 10 a.m. Listen, stay safe. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, make it a great day. Bye, y'all.
You've been listening to Good Morning Gwinnett. Make sure to tune in Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time to find out what's happening around Gwinnett. If you like this episode, subscribe now and share with your friends. To learn more about Noise Media Network, visit noisemedia.us.